If God asked you, if you had the power that created all things, known and unknown, at your fingertips, what would you ask for? Anything and everything is on the table. God cannot and will not lie, trick, or deceive, so whatever you ask is going to happen. What would you ask for? Would you ask for the grace to carry out His will that is already set forth in your life? Would you have the trust, faith, and humility to say, Lord, I need this, whatever this is? It was an understanding heart for Solomon. I need this to carry out your will because I don't have it, and without it, I will make a mess of what you have called me to do. And if we're honest with ourselves, it's hard to name something that we need to carry out the vocation we live. Most of us would probably say, I need something like patience or some other cliche answer. So I want to ask this way. Do you know, feel, understand God's calling in your life enough to know what you need to carry it out? If you're like me, you go from one fire to the next, most often just getting one controlled before moving on, never getting one fully put out. It's hard to know what I need in this minute, much less what I'll need to help for tomorrow. We're constantly processing information, whether it's schedules, emails, text messages, sales ads, gas prices, grocery lists, meal plans, all the things we must do to get through the next week or the next few days. This leaves us very little time to be silent, to consider within ourselves, what am I to be doing and what do I need in order to do it? Many times in the Old Testament, the Lord called out to people when they were sleeping, in the quiet stillness of sleep. We don't even have quiet stillness in our sleep anymore. Everything we haven't fully processed during the day wakes us up at night, and then to try to go back to sleep, we pick up our crutch that's never far away, our phone, where we begin absorbing more information and never take advantage of the quiet stillness, or even think to listen, to block out all that other and ask, has something more awakened me? Something bigger than all this other stuff? So it leads to my next question. What can be given up that will begin to quiet our lives? In the gospel account we hear today, Jesus tells two parables of people selling off everything they have to possess something they value more than anything else. That's hard to comprehend. I thought about this for several days and read several commentaries before I even considered they sold everything. They didn't sell their third vehicle, their second house, guns from an overcrowded safe. They didn't sell off all that extra stuff they had to acquire these treasures. They sold everything. I'm not fixing to suggest that you go and sell everything, but I am going to ask if you remember something that I said 2 weeks ago. I talked about using this time to come to know Jesus, so that when we came to times of Advent and Lent, times of spiritual renewal, we could come to know Jesus more than we would have otherwise. Is there something you can give up now, small or big, material or immaterial, that would give you some quiet time? Something that would allow you to discern God's will in your life in a more peaceful way. Maybe it's 15 minutes of sleep in the morning, TV at night, instead of running out for lunch, just sitting quietly. Something that allows us time to hear God speak to us, for us to understand his call in our life and what we need to carry it out. A group met last week to consider some things for this parish to do for the National Eucharistic Revival. And immediately in our small group, a woman had an idea. She had this idea because she deliberately spent time in the quiet stillness of adoration. She was prepared at this meeting to say, I know what we can do, because she had opened herself to the Lord, to hear his call, and then patiently waited for the opportunity to use what she was given. We want to know what to ask for. We have to know what we are called for and who is calling us. Without knowing this, we may ask for riches and the life of our enemies, wealth and power. And when we receive these things, they will lead us to destruction, because eventually we will come to worship them as idols. In one of his daily homilies last week, in reference to a martyr of the church, Father said, Saint Apollinaris had the privilege to die for the Lord. The only way to understand one losing his life as a privilege, there must be something greater that he gained by losing his life. When we think of giving up everything, most of us wouldn't think of giving our life, but that is what the martyred saints did. They gave their life because they knew who they were giving it for. They knew there truly is something greater to be gained. It is not likely that we will be called to martyrdom, although we are called to die to ourselves from time to time by giving up the things we desire for the things we are called to do. I close with two final questions. Will you know the difference between what you desire and what you are called to do? Or do you desire to do what the Lord has called you to?
And now let us profess our faith.